Welcome, everyone. Thanks once again to joining Burt, Harding, and me, Susie, and Wei in A Course in Miracles and Pure Non-Duality. So today we're going to answer an email that somebody sent us with a series of questions, and I'm going to read them right now, and then Burt's going to start to give some answers. I accept that all beings are at varying paths, and even the herder's soul is calling to go home. Does this mean attainment of permanent pure awareness is not possible for all beings here, now? Does this mean that the clearing may take another million earthly years so that all souls can go home and then come back to finish the learnings of the last? Clear all our hurt, clear all our suffering, love ourselves and love each other. Then we attain a blissful joy and a peace that lasts and covers the entire planet and vibrates through the universe. So if it may take a million years, and yet, if the soul knows no time nor space, then can we get it right now? If not now, then when?
That's a big question. The only way that it can be answered is simply to go back to our beginning. You see, we're assuming on Earth that we are following truth, more or less. But we know that time and space is not part of the truth. Mm-hmm. We know that the Earth itself has not been created by God, because God is pure being. So the only way that we can begin to look at it is to go back to the very beginning, before the earth was created. So we were pure being, and that was God itself. In other words, the totality, all of us. Then something happened when the energy itself wanted to be separate, to think for itself, to be able to say, how can I be by myself? Can I be?
What's it like to be separate?
What's it like to be separate? Right. And then it became the fall. The fall is known as the Big Bang. This is when everything changed and the earth was created. The earth was created by consciousness, because then pure awareness, which was the initial stage of everyone, and the initial stage of everyone being pure awareness, therefore they didn't have to have form, right? They were just pure spirit. In order to answer such a question, in other words, in order to we've got to go back to the creation of the earth by simply consciousness. In order to be aware, it needed the awareness itself to be aware of itself. In other words, awareness became consciousness. Okay, so the ability to conceive, to create. In that essence, then time was created. Time and space was created. Because time was created, now we know something that we never experienced before. In other words, time and space brought us into a whole new way of seeing, thinking, feeling, and being.
Right. So in a sense, when you said consciousness came into being, in order to have consciousness, there has to be something, we have to be conscious of change. Something has to change in order for there to be consciousness. And in that seeming change, time and space come into seeming being.
Because again, ego took over. See what we call ego. So the separation creates an ego, right? Initially, there was no ego. There was just en masse. There was we, all. We can't understand it right now. But in truth, there is only oneness. This oneness became separated. The separation created the whole big illusion called Earth. And so this is why there is so much struggle and strife and unawareness of our true nature, because we are living in a very deluded state.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just feeling out how to answer such a letter. So this means that once we start reverting back to awareness, once we start waking up to the fact that we are asleep, really, we don't know who we are. We think we are just a body. We have to work for a living. We have to earn money. This is all created by time and space, right?
So we think
bear with me as I go slow
Okay.
in this, because this requires quite a bit of
sweetie.
readjustment here. You know, okay, so now this means that in order for us to return back and be saved, so-called saved, in other words, we understand that we are pure being. Again, our true nature is not who we think we are, but our spirit is. We have to reach a point of understanding en masse. Now, en masse means totality, wholeness. Okay, I'll go back. A few months ago, people were working outside here, you know, the building next door. They were making a lot of noise, but usually they didn't start till 8 o'clock. But at this time, I was meditating about 7:30, and I found myself in an incredible state. And in a way, I was reliving the state where everything is pure, everything is perfect, we're all saved. You know, we are totality as actually we were meant to be. Okay. Right now, we're not the way we were meant to be, but most people are not aware of that. Okay, so this is meant to be a complete reorientation of our focus on life. But at this point in my meditation, I saw very clearly that we are all free, that we're all liberated, we're all very happy. It was like a heavenly state. It was so beautiful. I didn't want to get out of it, you know. And then somebody started yelling at the back, right next door. And the moment they did, I was out of it. But the moment I found myself out of it, it was just like a shock. And I thought, wow, you know, I am simply this body. I am Burt, living this life, type of thing.
So it was kind of a reenactment.
So this is what I'm trying to relive here. I'm trying to relive this feeling, which to me explains this letter. This letter is a complete, what it's saying there. There's something in the Course that answers this letter, doesn't it?
Well, the Course says a couple of different things. It says, just as the separation occurred over millions of years, seemingly, so will what they call the last judgment, which is where we judge ourselves to be innocent and we go home. But then it goes on to say, if enough miracle-minded people arrive in the world or start to wake up in the world, that time will be shortened, what it calls immeasurably. So it doesn't give a time. So and then it also says, as long as one single slave remains to walk the earth, our job is not done.
Our job is not done.
Our job is not done.
Right.
So in that sense,
see, it takes a mass energy of awakening for this earth to go back to okay. We live in time and space, which is a total unawareness of how things really are. And this is why we get baffled. This is why we start to think, I wonder what, etc., etc. We do not have that basic understanding, which is known as knowing. Okay, the knowing is not awakened in us, so we don't know who we are. In order for that awakening of knowing who we are, that has to be 100%. The moment it is 100% with everybody, because it's all one family, we're all one, that very oneness itself means that the earth as we know it, the very earth as we know it, disappears.
Because it's a dream.
It's a dream.
It's a dream of separation.
Right. So we wake up and find that the earth never really existed.
Mm-hmm.
It never was.
So in that moment, the idea of time is gone as well.
And the idea of time and space is gone. Right, exactly. So
we can eat now.
Who is this?
I'm not sure. It might be Way's child.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is as far as I can go in answering this. Is there an answer to it? Well, in a way, it could be if we come to understand that we all en masse understand that this is all a dream.
Mm-hmm.
This is not real. And the knowledge in us has awakened to the point where we realize who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Not through books, not through learning, not through psychology, not philosophy, not anything. It's just that there is an awakening of how it actually is in consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be possible. Yeah, but other than that, I don't know what to say.
It's almost as though while we're stuck in time, time seems very real to us.
That's right.
But time is only constructed through our memory. It's only through our belief in our memory that we believe time actually occurred. There's actually no real evidence while we're here that time occurs. And as the Course says, if enough miracle-minded people show up, then the time seems to be shortened immeasurably. But miracle-minded people, that's essentially forgiveness.
That's right.
So what seems to keep us in time is this suffering and this guilt. And by forgiving, we recognize that it never actually happened. We're not guilty.
And it actually never happened.
And neither is our brother.
Because there is a complete reversal back to the state it really is, which is, of course, no time and space.
Right. So even though we had the idea, what would it be like to be separate? The ego gave us this answer, and the answer played out over 1 billion years in time. But because the ego speaks first and the Holy Spirit speaks second, it's not until we hear the Holy Spirit explaining what a seeming separate world would be like, and then the Holy Spirit says to us, well, it never happened. It couldn't happen. It's not even possible.
That is very beautiful.
But that realization is a tricky realization.
It's a very tricky realization. And then we go back and realize, oh, the nightmare never existed.
No. We were never separate.
We were never separate. It was just a temporary state of delusion. Yeah. So this is the only way that we can answer it, is that the whole thing is a delusion. And when we all wake up en masse, we find that we're back to where we started. Very happy home. Yeah, the kingdom of God, what we call heaven is our true home. We find that we never left it. We only seem to have a long nightmare, and then we're right back. So, wow.
So while we're trapped in time, it seems real.
We're trapped in time that seems so real. That's right.
And the miracle, because the nature of the miracle is something that occurs outside of space and time and seems to be in opposition to our current belief system, that gives us a little jolt forward towards awakening.
Yes, that's right. And the awakening happens fast when we realize that it's all a dream. You see? Because it's right, one big jump. It was all just a nightmare, right? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Wow. I never expected such a letter.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I think according to Burt, according to what you said, I think one approach to this question is that future really exists. The only thing that exists is the moment right now. So the question did refer to, would it would it take 1 million years for people to be enlightened or to be awakened? So I guess there is really no sense of future if there's no space, right?
Now you got a very good point there, you see? Because now here we thought of time when in actuality it never existed. And so we find, we all of a sudden find we wake up to heaven and, oh my goodness, we had this nightmare. Yeah.
I also have a question about consciousness, because a lot of people would claim that not only human, even animal, vegetables, even objects will have base consciousness, very minimal consciousness. Now, is it unique to human that we have a, or wherever there's consciousness, there is a sense of ego?
Absolutely. Consciousness is ego, in fact, because it's full of beliefs and conditions and concepts and the way we look at things in a very limited way. Whereas pure being, pure knowing, which is our true nature, is beyond the ego. And it lives as the heart of knowing, the realization. It reminds me, I see the picture of Ramana Maharshi here. I see it in there. Yeah, in front. Yeah, he was 16, and all of a sudden he had this fear of death and the way the country was living and everything. He just didn't want to stay in it, really, but he wanted to experience what it's like if he were to die. He lied down, he went through all the process, and he woke up. When he woke up totally to a whole different way of life, completely. But what happened is that he didn't want to claim his body, because he woke up, but he woke up also still in his body. And so he, in a way, didn't want to claim his body as normal. So he sat there and he didn't eat, he didn't sleep, he didn't take care of himself. A few people saw him and took care of him, etc., brought him back. So I'm just trying to recall that there was a time when he didn't want to speak because he still wasn't here. Even though he was in the body, he was still not here. And then something happened to him to actually make him talk and start giving some instructions to the people around him.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It sort of covers the topic we're talking about, because he was awake. I mean, he had woken up and he recognized the oneness, but then something in him sort of made him come back into the world to help seeming others.
That's right. But in order for him to come to that state, he had to actually go through a catharsis, you know, a complete catharsis, and which was like a stroke almost, like something like that anyway. And it changed him, and he started speaking and dealing with people. But even though
now, is it possible?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. I was wondering if it'd be possible to reach awareness while retaining consciousness.
Yes. Yes. But one will obliterate the other. Because the moment we awaken, then the very knowing itself will give us the understanding that there's no time and space. So we are spirit, really, you know. So it would be very difficult to live as a human in the way that we were living. So this is a very, very difficult thing, because we're going back prior to the fall of man, right? Prior to the what is called the Big Bang, the big change. And that's the way it all started, the way it was.
It's very confusing, because when you're caught in duality, in order to understand non-duality, you have to use dualistic ideas and terms. So ideas of years, ideas of time, ideas of time and space and words and stories that we have to use to imbue something that really transcends words.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
You said something the other day, and I thought it was really beautiful. You talked about how you gave a beautiful example of the illusion of time and space, and about how judgment actually creates a sense of time or a sense of space. It can create space between you and a friend or something when you have a judgment. So we're actually, because the world is maintained through this idea of judgment, through this idea of separation, which requires constant work on our part to maintain, we're actually continually creating this sense of time and space through our judgments, through our ideas, through beliefs that we lay on top of these perceptions that we're seeing.
But also we have to understand too, that time and space, as it was created, everything was created based on time and space. So therefore, time and space has to continue. For example, the Earth rotating around the sun. You see, this very rotation itself is producing the four seasons and what we call day and night. You know, the circle around the sun. So this particular movement created everything that we know on Earth to adjust to this idea of time and space.
Right.
So this whole idea of time and space is really one big, huge illusion. And in order for us to return back to our original state, all that has to change. Yeah. See,
so that's very interesting.
So we have a question.
Oh, we have a question?
Yeah, Jesse raised the question. The ego holographic, there its inherent nature is emptiness, appearing as separate.
Right.
And as emptiness knowing self, the hologram remain.
That's a good question.
Well, that's whoever asked this question is quite smart because
Jesse.
Oh, Jesse. Oh. Hey, good, Jesse. Yeah, the original state is really emptiness. The only way that emptiness can be something is to bring in matter, right? To bring in, again, time and space.
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
Because we have to see one thing that's
right.
not another.
In other words, yeah, duality. Right, yeah. So it would have to be non-duality, complete non-duality, pure awareness without duality.
Yeah, the Course says it's very difficult to have total awakening and maintain a body and maintain the illusion of separation. So that in order to have the illusion of being here, you almost have to come and go a little bit. You have to buy into it slightly. It says it's nearly impossible to maintain the body with total awakening.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
so which means the hologram, the seeming,
that's right.
seeming separation.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why Ramana Maharshi was always naked, lived up on the mountain, never left it. Because he lived from that state of total being, you know, maintaining the body only for the sake of the love that he had for those around him who needed his guidance.
Well, that's beautiful. Now you bring up the topic of love, because essentially that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. Thank you, sweetie.
So it's the love that shortens time.
It's love that shortens time. Yes. Because in time and space, there is no love, right? The moment we have love, love itself becomes unconditional because we're all one. And that very oneness itself, which is hard to conceive with the mind can't conceive it incidentally. What we're talking about, and that's why I'm lacking words here, because what we're talking about, it can't be conceived with the mind. When I was meditating at that time and then came to, there's no way that I could explain what I experienced. I can't, except that there was great joy, great love, unconditional love. It was marvelous. There was no age, there was no ill health, there was nothing that you can term, quote, bad or wrong. Just pure, unadulterated love and joy. Yeah. So this is where
Hey,
love has to be.
Burt, I have a question about love. I was thinking, I have a question about love because exactly mentioned that in this dualistic world that we live in, you mentioned there is no love. There's no such love as unconditional as it existed in the emptiness. However, there is love manifested motherly love, right? The closest thing to unconditional love, I think, is motherly love. And there are other types of love, romantic, I think they're manifestation of the eternal love, don't you think?
Yes, I do. I agree with you. Yeah, motherly love, fatherly love, relationships that are genuine, loving each other unconditionally. Yes, it's possible and it's being manifested in the world, but these are very rare. But they do exist. As a matter of fact, if we go back in history, we find that all what we call, quote, great people were all people who were unconditionally loving. And because of these people, that
I think
enough balance from wars, from, yes?
I think the ego self is confused with the fact that private love will exhaust everything, but actually it's only a manifestation of the eternal love.
I'm not lying.
Who's speaking there?
I'm not sure.
Oh, there was someone.
Tamara.
Yeah, I unpinned it so that we could see Wei, and I guess it picked up sounds.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, that was a powerful question.
Mm-hmm.
And although we didn't answer it, yet we can see the possibilities of how to live, really.
Right, and also the question itself is saying that we are love, our nature is love.
Our nature
because it's showing the concern. It's not just saying, I want to awaken and get out of here. I want to make sure everybody gets to go with me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, yes. Because the first thing you think about in unconditional love is, of course, that everybody around you is in that loving state, is happy, is fulfilled. You see to it, so to speak. In other words, you take a responsibility that we're all one, one whole, one being. And that is the beauty of the beauty of being, really. We're all one being. And that's why the word God is so beautiful. Because it covers that totality, that wholeness itself.
Yeah, I was just watching the video talking about God and God is. I meant to send it out to everyone and I forgot. It's a video that was when they made a movie of A Course in Miracles. Helen Schuckman, I don't know, it was a few years before she channeled A Course in Miracles. She had this dream. It was a very prophetic dream. She was going across the desert in Israel and she went up into these caves and found this giant scroll that was tied. She rolled open the scroll and in the very center of the scroll were the words, God is. She rolled the scroll open slightly on each side and she could see a lot of words written on the right and a lot of words written on the left.
One is about her future, one about her past.
Right.
Right, and she didn't care about her past and future being known. She said, I settle with this, God is. And the moment she said that, she started receiving messages. And that's how the Course in Miracles was written, through her, to answer that question, God is. So in fact, the very first page of the Course, it says God is too.
It says nothing unreal exists and nothing real can be threatened. Herein lies the peace of God.
Yes.
So it says it right there. It never really happened, but it seems as though it's happening. It seems as though we're bodies in a separate world.
Mm-hmm.
And in that instant, when we're stuck, we find ourselves stuck. What would you say is the fastest way to get us back to the sense of beingness?
It's really realizing that we're not the body.
We're not the body.
That is the first thing, you know. Once we see we're not the body and therefore not subject to these laws of the body, which is time and space, really, then we manifest the very knowing that we've always been spirit. And spirit has, this is something the mind can't understand. No way. The spirit never came into being and will never be out of time. In other words, it has no beginning or end.
So it has no measurable attributes whatsoever. It's pure spirit.
No,
it's empty. It consists of nothing.
Well, that's where emptiness comes in. The understanding of emptiness. Yeah, it's totally empty, and in the total emptiness is known all the joy and beauty and love and happiness that is possible. Yeah.
So that's why when here on earth, when we're seemingly at a state of peace or with a relaxed state of mind, at that moment, unconditional love seems to be natural. At that very moment. And suddenly everything comes alive with this sense of love.
Just like hating your a friend, you know, and at that moment you feel all the angst of separation, you know, and you can sleep at night and you feel guilty. One day, you both forgive each other at the same time almost, and grab each other, hold each other, and says, oh my God, I always loved you. At that moment, you're separated. At that moment, you feel the oneness.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's forgiveness.
And that forgiveness is the only way. Oh, that's beautiful. In fact, I almost forgot to mention that. It is only through forgiveness that we actually get back to the state of pure love. Yeah, unconditional love.
Because in this forgiveness, we're essentially recognizing that we're not separate, and that the judgment or whatever reason was that we seem to have for having a grievance was simply there to maintain the sense of separation, which by itself is painful, as opposed to the sense of emptiness or oneness or togetherness, which is our natural state.
Yes, yes.
So each one of these forgivenesses is bringing us closer and closer.
Yeah, every time we forgive, yeah. And especially when it's combined with compassion. Because compassion means if you're hating me, if you want to hurt me, etc., I understand what you're feeling because I felt it too at one point. You see, so I understand how you feel, in other words, you see, you're saying to the person. So anyway, so compassion is when you know that your forgiveness has been complete. Because you feel compassion to the one who hurt you or to what has caused suffering, right?
And that's beautiful because this letter in itself is pure compassion. It's a demonstration of the compassion, of the sense of the one wanting the oneness with all the brothers, wanting no one to be left behind. Also at the same time, wanting to know that as an individual, I have the ability right here and now to remember my true self.
Yes, yes. Yes, actually, you said something very beautiful here. You see, this has caught us in a quandary because the mind, there's no way that the mind can answer that question, you know. But the heart can through love.
That's right.
And it's all a matter of returning back to love. It's no big deal. It's not a religion. It's not a philosophy. It's not a book. It is simply returning back to a natural state of emptiness. So empty, in fact, that we don't even hold the slightest grievance, the slightest angst, the slightest guilt in our heart, because we're so pure. And it is only that purity that binds us and brings us back to understanding. And that knowing, incidentally, that knowing of love, unconditional love, is with us all the time, you know. And to the extent that we come to know it and feel it, we are living successfully.
So that unconditional love is just on the other side of our grievance. It's being hidden by our judgments and our grievances.
That's right, that's right.
So forgiveness then becomes a miracle.
Yes, forgiveness becomes the very miracle back to our original state. Yes.
And then that's the inspirational state as well. That's when we then are a pure channel for the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Bringing...
You see how twisted we are in the world, really, the delusion, the living. We all want to be successful, all want to have $1 million, all want to have power. But why? Because we think it's going to make us happy. But happiness, which is the emptiness itself, is not derived from anything that you can have or need or want, but it itself. It itself is complete. Did I say that right?
Yeah, so love and be, what we're looking, no matter what we seem to be doing, we're looking for happiness.
That's right.
Simultaneously with also trying to maintain this sense of separation, and the two can't go together, really.
And the two can't go together.
So somehow we're trying to make ourselves richer or better or more beautiful or smarter or something or than someone else.
Right.
But the pleasure we think we're going to derive from that sense is actually lost in the separation that we're creating between
because
us and
we're
our
separate. That's right. Because of the separation itself, we're creating hell. You see, there's nothing unhappier than loneliness. You know, oh, we heard something so beautiful lately. There is this man who did all the what's his name? Did the Star Trek.
The man who did Star Trek?
Yeah, the captain of the ship. What's his name?
William Shatner.
William
yes.
Shatner.
Oh, yeah, we saw an interview where he said he was lonely.
Yeah,
despite all of his worldly successes,
that's right.
He's always running away from loneliness.
Yeah, he has known everything in the world, and he's very wealthy. And right now he had an interview on television, and he said that he's practically dying from loneliness, and he doesn't know how to combat it. He's got lots of friends, but now as he's getting older and not able to work like he used to, right now he's suffering from loneliness. And loneliness is the greatest depriver of love, because no one is lonely. We are all one.
So filling our time with all these somethings, all these busynesses, actually is keeping us away from this emptiness.
That's right. And that's why the world is such one big nightmare, because everything that the world offers you is how to be famous, how to be important, how to have lots of money, how to be good looking. But at the same time, if you have all these things and you don't have love, you still begin to wither away, because you begin to feel lonelier and lonelier and lonelier until you come to a point where you lose everything. And then you're back to square one. Now you might say, why do you lose everything? Well, because when you see that money never gave you happiness, nothing gave you beauty, nothing gave you richness in the heart, that very realization itself, you feel as if nothing is going to satisfy me, nothing is going to fulfill me. And that is just like a death sentence, but worse than that, because you don't know that the very spirit you are is the love, the joy that you want more than anything.
So this compassion that you spoke of as being the result of forgiveness, the compassion we feel for another. I remember hearing about a gentleman who had a couple of NDEs, and on his NDE, they told him that he had to come back and to do his work. And he didn't know what his work meant, but he thought maybe it meant charity. So he thought maybe he needed to start some charity organizations and do all this. But the voice spoke to him and said, no, that's not your work. And he finally realized that his work was true and complete connection with his brothers, which meant to actually connect with somebody, to recognize that you're coming from the same place I'm coming from, to know that we're actually brother and sister, that we are actually one. That level of connection, that level of intimacy, that level of compassion with your brother, where you don't see any differences, you don't believe any differences. You're connecting at that incredible level of coming from emptiness, coming in a purely non-judgmental state.
Yes, this is so, right now, my goodness, it had been stamped in the beginning, and I'm so grateful for that. because I'm not usually stumped for answers, but the fact that I'm stumped is the answer. We are learning right now that unless we have love, we have nothing. And love is the oneness. Love is the being, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That is the complete whole of our life.
So instead of a projection of things out there, suddenly we're now seeing a reflection. So when I look in your face, I see the reflection of the one love, of the oneness, that love loving itself.
I see it in you too, sweetheart. Yeah. And it's all about love, really. Isn't it something? We think we're going to teach something different. But you know, everybody is aware of love. Everybody is aware of its beauty. You know, a child without love cannot survive. I remember during the war, there were so many babies being born and the parents were killed, etc. And there was not enough nurses to take care of these babies, and they were dying. Mm-hmm. So they decided to hire a lot of nurses to hold each child at least for half an hour every day. And the babies survived. Wow. Yeah, because they were shown at least some affection, some love.
Sounds like a fun job. Hugging babies all day. Where does one get one of those?
Yeah, isn't it beautiful though?
Now it's to 4:45. We have two questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
I think I said it's close to 4:45, and we have questions in the chat box.
Okay.
And we can then subsequently open up the mic for more questions if you like. How's that? Okay, so first question from Jesse, who was asking, once we realize we're not the body, we manifest healing for the body.
That's true too, because when you start knowing that you are love, love itself will bring healing to the body. If the body doesn't heal, then it's not meant to heal, and you're wanted back home. But you see, one thing that everybody fears, it is death. And death is nothing. It's just like going from one room to the other. I died twice in this lifetime. And so it's no big deal. Dying is a very, very simple thing. You don't even know you died. The first time I went out of the body, I remember I was 17 years of age. And I felt such joy and peace and knew that everything that the church taught me had nothing to do with truth, you know, about devil and hell and punishment and all this. This is nothing. There is only love, unconditional love called God, you know, called perfection. And that was such a freeing feeling. But the thing is that then I said, you know, I wonder where my body was, because it was taken to the hospital by two men, as it was on the rocks at the time. Anyway, I don't want to go into the whole story. And I found myself immediately, the moment I thought, where's my body? To my body.
Back into the body.
Back into the body, yeah. And when I came out of the body, it happened so fast that before my body hit the rocks of the beach, you know, 20-foot drop, I was out before I actually felt the impact. So this is it. And now a study has been made of people who have experienced near-death experiences through car crashes and all this. They find that before they actually crashed head-on, they were out of the body observing the whole thing.
I believe it, because I was mountain biking and I had an end over where my head went straight into a rock, and I just didn't happen to have my helmet on at the time. I don't have any memory of that at all. I don't remember any pain, any of that. I just remember waking up 5-10 minutes later, semi-concussion-like state. But yeah, no, I didn't feel it.
And you had an out-of-body experience.
I had an out-of-body experience. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yes. So this is it. You know, there's no real suffering in the world except that which we create in our minds. When we create the suffering of the body because we make the body real. But when you really realize that the body is not real, not only you live longer, but you live so much healthier too.
Also, and when you recognize God is, as we were talking about with the scroll from Helen, in the present moment, in the complete accepting of the now, there is no future in which to be ill.
Yes. Isn't that something? There is no future. So I'm really not 88 years of age then. I'm just a kid.
Burt, I guess you must have a lot of examples where love can, possess the healing power for the body.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what is there a limit to this healing? Is there any limit to how the love can heal the body?
I don't think there's a limit unless the limit is imposed on us by law, the universal law, love itself, in other words, like, because sometimes something happens which meant that your time is up. You see what I mean? Your time is up means the physical body has had its time and now it's off to go to spirit. So if your time is up, then and something happens in order to take you home, you think you can heal it. But then again, if your time is up and you have cancer or you have something terminal, it won't bother you as much.
Exactly.
Because somehow these things instinctively
and once you
intuitively.
And once you recognize you're the oneness and there's nothing else happening, you know that whatever seems to be happening right now is exactly perfect. It's the Holy Spirit's plan.
Yes.
So maybe there's a reason for you to remain a year.
That's right. Yeah.
Seeming to have cancer.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a reason for you to suddenly regain your vision.
Right.
But as the Course says, consciously enacted miracles are not the nature of miracles. Miracles, it's the Holy Spirit that decides what miracles will occur.
That's
when
right.
And where and how.
That's why it's called the Course of Miracles too, because miracles often occur, but they occur as we need them to learn love, to learn conditional love. Yeah.
And so a lot of people forget.
Another question that's related.
What's that?
Yeah, another related question is, I think another related question is, does suffering exist? So this very much relates to next question from Robert. He was saying that he's in a place where even the seeking has brought him no satisfaction. It's virtually a very dark place where the world has not delivered him, and he has lost faith in spirit.
Yeah, this happens very often. Yeah, and I do sympathize. With when something like this happens, because the more we fear the darkness, the worse it gets. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of guilt. It's a funny thing, but when I was 6 years old, the war started, and I don't know what happened to my mother, but my mother was an incredible lady. And one time during the bombings, as they were falling, she put her hand on my shoulder and on the shoulder of my sister, and she said, "Well, if today we die together," she says, "we're going to be in heaven together." But she said it in such a way, such a convincing way, that we were never afraid of death again. I've never been afraid of death. And I think my sister is the same way. And my sister is still alive in Malta. I think she's 93. And she's great as far as the last pictures are concerned.
Yeah, we talked to her on your birthday.
That's right, yeah. So anyway, so my point is that when we're brought up without any fear of death or fear of anything negative happening to us, somehow we get out of our darkness. Because the only truth in life, is love, unconditional love. When I received the book, The 4 Unknown Facts of Reality, the first thing it told me is that there's 4 unknown laws, but the one law, the one major law, is everything is empty. Emptiness is the law. And I said, well, why don't I call it God? And the voice said, well, if you call it God, then people will think it's another religion. So then I said, what about if we call it love? And it says, no, if you call it love, then people think only to the terms of how much love they're feeling, you see? And everybody, no matter how bad they feel, they have something that they love, which keeps you surviving, really, because without love, with nothing to love at all, you might as well be dead, really, because there's nothing that can keep you. But however, as long as there is love, some form of energy keeps you going. And what was my point I'm trying to make here?
We were talking about how seeking itself seems to create the negative sensation of seeking. For instance, there's quite a few people out there who say that seeking energy itself is what's keeping you from finding the truth. And then we have, in the case of Jesus, he says in the Gospel of Thomas, I think in the Bible, and perhaps also in the Course, that you seek until you find. Now, those things sound contradictory, but when you're trapped in the seeming separate world, it seems real. So to hear the answer, it never happened, that can seemingly make you angry. But just like as you were saying, the stages of awakening, listening to that and hearing it over and over again, it goes from a state of I wish to maybe to yes. And it's at that final yes of realizing that nothing ever happened, that then all of that suddenly makes sense.
All of a sudden it makes sense. And all the the darkness and everything falls away.
Exactly. And the ego has the habit of pretending it's on board with us, having a question that can't be answered. And it's saying, until this question is answered, I can't awaken. Well, guess what? No questions have to be answered to awaken.
Yes, that's true.
That's the ego's trick and then a belief.
Yeah.
Like in your book, you talk about negative unconscious belief, which would be a great topic for a whole talk, where we have these ideas that I think Einstein said by the time we're 20, everything we believe we now decide is common sense, but none of the things that we believe are necessarily true. So we have to try and catch ourselves before we ask for the answer to a why question. We need to look at the question and first of all say, is it really true to begin with?
Yes. Most of the time when we suffer so much darkness, we think there's so many things going wrong. We don't believe in anything. This is all a belief. It has nothing to do with reality. But if at that moment you have enough strength to pray, and I do believe in prayer because prayer is talking to your higher self, to a part in you which is called the Holy Spirit, miracles can happen.
Yeah. Burt, you gotta tell us more about praying. Maybe you can do that at the end. I really like how you taught me about praying authentically,
Yes.
Also, Robert, I mentioned something. I said you may be onto something. I see a great opportunity in front of you. This might be your own darkness that nobody else understands. Is you finds it. But I think in my world, no suffering is unnecessary. This is quite something, just Friedrich Nietzsche said, that the deeper you grow towards darkness, the closer you will sprout towards the state. So it's only temporary.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, our next question, I guess, is Tamara has made a comment, says, remember Marianne Williamson's Return to Love.
I've read that, I think, back in the early 90s. I don't remember too much of it, but I do know That's how I heard about the course in the first place, was through Marianne Williamson's books all those years
Absolutely.
ago.
Absolutely. And when you were discussing this back to love, it's always coming back to love.
Always.
I couldn't help but go back there. This is me, Tamara, talking to you.
Hi, Tamara. We don't see a picture.
Thank you. It was,
yeah. Can we see you?
I know. I well, I guess
Yeah, let me see you. Let me see.
How do I do that?
There you are.
Ah, there you are.
I have my hair.
No, you look great.
You're lovely. Yeah.
You know what? We just love you. Anyway, I love you guys. Susie, wow.
Thank you.
Wow. What a gorgeous compliment you are to Burt. But Burt has always attracted to such beauty and innocence and purity. Always.
She's
feeling tone. She what?
She's all these things. She's all purity and love. And
I know. I'm preaching to the converted, right? But I just have to say, after so many years of not being invested 2 years of my Thursdays to Burt, and it was no effort. It was my spiritual growth. I will be eternally grateful to you, Burt.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart.
And I'm so grateful it has brought you Susie, who is an absolute gorgeous compliment to you. You really live. You don't. It's not a question for you. It's not an equation for you. Feeling love and feeling that openness. And boy, this is just the message we all needed right now.
It's beautiful. And the fact that you recognize it means it's in you too. You see? That's the beauty.
Home. And thank you for that. I needed to be reminded.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't want to lose all the things that I had invested in those 2 years with you, or my 5 years in beautiful BC, coming back to the big smoke and the tyranny and the crazy God of the East, because it's all about, it's all about industry and so forth here. Thank you for this, and thanks to the internet and the incredible technology that makes this possible.
Yes, isn't it though? Yeah. I just learned recently about the Zoom. But just keep coming to these classes, okay? It's nice to share. I'm in, man. I'm in. Good. Thank you, Wei. Thank you, Susie.
Oh,
thank you, Burt. Thank you.
Okay, I'm signing out because I don't want everyone. Okay? Peace and love.
Okay.
Peace.
Hey, love you.
Yes.
Everyone, we have just a couple of minutes left. If any of you have any questions, I would, you can raise your hand, or you can let me know and I can unmute you. You can ask your questions. How's that?
But was an unusual one, unexpected and unprepared for, but it's lovely.
Well, if no one has any questions, why don't we end the meeting with a quick meditation?
Yes.
I'll read from the course, okay, and then we can end it with a quick meditation. This actually addresses time a little bit. Father, I seek the peace you gave as mine in creation. What was given then must be here now. For my creation was apart from time, and still remains beyond all change. The peace in which your son was born into your mind is shining there, unchanged. I am as you created me. I need but call on you to find the peace you gave. It is your will that gave it to your son.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming, and hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you all.
Blessings.
See you next.